tonight on the Final Play.
We are LSU! We are LSU! We are LSU! We are!
The Tigers are top 10 takedown masters as Ed Ogeron's squad makes a third victim out of the second-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. We've got reaction and analysis to the dominant day. Plus, the Saints return from the bye with a fifth straight win in their sights. Here, Deuce McAllister's thoughts on the tough stretch ahead.
This bye week really comes at a good time.
And we'll give you a full recap of the weekend on the gridiron, along with a preview of the Pelicans as their season tips off in just 3 days.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Final Play, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealer, built Ford tough, and Nissan.
Welcome into the Final Play. I'm Juan Kincaid, and don't look now. A challenger for the SEC West crown has really emerged. And it's the LSU Tigers who threw their hat into the SEC title discussion by upending second-ranked Georgia in Tiger Stadium on Saturday. If you were wondering how these Tigers would respond to losing in the Swamp last week, they answered the call in Death Valley last night. Garland Gillen takes a look back at LSU's most impressive win yet.
Before we can focus on LSU's big victory over Georgia, let's go back a week. The Tigers' losing effort in the Swamp no doubt fueled what happened in Tiger Stadium.
I do believe there was a hunger. I do believe that we felt that we were to blame for losing that football game. We didn't feel like the team just came out and beat us and we couldn't handle it. And that even hurts more. I think that when it does, you screw the screws a little bit tighter. You do the things that you can do. And I think all week our guys had a chip on their shoulder. And these guys being the number 2 team in the country, all the things you hear about their dynasty and all that stuff, I mean, now guys are ready to go.
LSU went 4 of 4 on fourth down conversions, the most since LSU beat Florida in 2007.
And it's his call, and he's in. Touchdown, LSU.
Felt the tempo, what we needed this week to be aggressive. All week we talked about being aggressive. I was a little pissed at myself for not going forward against Florida down there, 4th and half an inch. We didn't do a good job of game management then, so I said, hey, we'll go for it.
The Tigers not only beat the number 2 team in the country, they dominated on both sides of the ball.
All year, honestly, even the early games, we hadn't put teams away like that and kind of stomped them into the ground. And I think we took a big step in that aspect, but there's still a lot of things to fix, but that was big for us.
This was easily Coach O's biggest win with the Tigers. It showed his squad as a contender for a national title and a team 4- and 5-star high schoolers want to play for.
We have a lot of recruits here, a lot of guys here. Georgia's always in the national picture. We're an up-and-coming football team. We still got a long ways to go, but we want to lead LSU to a championship. Where this takes us, we don't know, but hopefully it gives us some confidence that we can play with anybody in the country. We cannot look past what we got up next is Mississippi State. Listen, let me tell you something. We can control. We play well and do the things we can be in there with most teams in the country.
So here's where things stand in the AP poll as of right now. Alabama's still holding on to the top spot. They're 7-0, followed by Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame. The Tigers back up to 5th. Michigan, after their big win over the weekend against Wisconsin, they're now at number 6. Garland Gillen joins me now. This guy is an AP voter, and I know you predicted LSU would win this game against Georgia. Tell me why.
I didn't believe Georgia was tested this season.
Okay.
When you're playing at Missouri, and that's one of your biggest games, at South Carolina, they were averaging 43 points a game against lesser opponents. LSU, Death Valley, I thought it was going to be too much for them to handle, and I was right. I wasn't the only person that was right. I know Jeff Duncan came on the show earlier in the week and said that LSU was also going to pull the upset, but I just didn't think that they got tested hard enough this season.
Is it right to say that LSU's season was on the line in that game against Georgia?
Oh, no doubt, Juan. If they would have lost this, they'd had 2 losses. SEC championship shot would have been over with because Alabama's schedule, their biggest games are at home. Alabama, like with Georgia, has not been tested yet this year. The biggest game for Alabama is going to be in 20 days in Tiger Stadium. No other team on Alabama's schedule so far. They've just blown through opponents. A&M is the closest game so far, and that was by 20 points. So Alabama is having an easy season so far when it comes to the results.
When you look at the way LSU beat Georgia, it was really at their own game, using the run to set up the pass. 275 yards rushing for LSU. That's crazy against that Georgia team.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 145 yards rushing. Joe Burrow, how about this? 66 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. They mixed it up with Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall hit him with the big play, and then they went with the run after. Nick Brissett looked really good in the matchup. It was a total team effort, defense, offense. Juan, I know there's a lot of football left, but it's exciting to at least watch this team. That game yesterday was one for the record books to watch. One
thing we question this year is how would LSU run the ball, and they're showing they have a bit of a stable of running backs, but to run it on 4th and short. So many times it was vintage Florida game from many years ago, but Ed Orgeron said they wanted to be aggressive at the start, and they certainly were that on both sides of the ball, especially on offense.
He pointed out in my story that just ran that there was a big 4th down conversion possibly against Florida. They punted instead. He said never again. They're going to go for it. They went 4 for 4 on 4th down conversions. The most since you mentioned it, Juan. 2007, Jacob Hester, the big LSU game at Tiger Stadium.
Crazy.
They went 5 for 5 in that game. I know that on the broadcast they said that this reminded them. I said the same exact thing. I tweeted out right before the broadcast, CBS broadcast said it. So they're rolling the dice. The recruits love it. There was a ton of recruits at that game, One. Some of the biggest recruits in America were there. They saw LSU dominate on national television. They had to see the fans storm the field. Big things are expected for LSU, and so far they're delivering.
One thing you pointed out earlier today, and I wanted to get this on, Joe Burrow, Christian Fulton, Cole Tracy, quarterback, cornerback, kicker, those 3 guys weren't even involved in this team last year for different reasons, either transfers or suspensions, but all 3 came up big against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and Cole Tracy yesterday admitted the reason he went to LSU was scouts told him unless he went to Division I program, he was not going to get an NFL contract. The only reason he came to LSU was to get an NFL contract. He's showing it. Yeah. He can handle it in big time because he was only playing in front of like 1,000 people some game back in Worcester, Mass. So to play in these big crowds at Auburn, at Jerry World, and Tiger Stadium to deliver, only missed 2 field goals all season. Christian Fulton was supposed to be suspended for this season. Joe Oliva sent a letter to NCAA. He's in there. And Joe Burrow, what are you going to say about him? He's the best read option quarterback LSU's had since like the Matt Mock days.
When you got a quarterback, you got something. Real quickly, Mississippi State, another nationally ranked team coming to LSU next week. Then Alabama in 2 weeks after that. Is Mississippi State a trap game?
Mississippi State has 2 losses on the year, but they've had some impressive games this year. I don't think it's a trap game. I think they, even though they got dusted by Mississippi State last season, I think LSU is going to deliver in this game. They're not going to look past them. They got 2 weeks to look for Alabama. I think they handle business against Mississippi State.
It's that little gauntlet we talked about. 3 games in 4 weeks, all nationally ranked opponents, and so far LSU holding their own. That's Garland Gillen. The rest of the weekend in college football is coming up later, but straight ahead, we'll talk Saints as they get set to exit their bye week and begin preparations for next Sunday's trip to Baltimore.
You're watching The Final Play.
Our catch of the week takes us back to the Dome, Monday Night Football, and Drew Brees making history. Take a listen.
If I'm Sean Payton, go for it right here. Right here, right now.
Hop to Gun King trips right there. 52, all go special, eggshell across HY to 1. 52 swing. Attack!
Breeze drops back. Looks to the far sideline, wide open, Traquan Smith. And Traquan Smith is going to go to the end zone. Drew Brees has done it.
I love you, bro. I love you, bro. I love you, bro. Thank you, coach. Come on, let's go win the game, guys. Come on.
Such a magical night for the Saints, who are enjoying their Sunday off. They went into the off week on a high, with Brees breaking the passing yards record and with a division-leading 4-1 record. Now, focus shifts to how they'll come out of it. Here's Sean Vazan.
The bye week in the NFL. Always a good time to relax, refresh, and in our case, reflect on what we've seen until now. Now, the one thing we can unequivocally proclaim about the 2018 Saints is this team still belongs to Drew Brees.
Wide open, and Smith, what a way to do it!
At 39 years young, Brees has never looked better. completing 77% of his passes and has thrown 12 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. And of course, he made history, culminating Monday night with this throw to Traquan Smith.
For just everything to play out the way that it did on Monday night, and for us to break the record and then have a chance to really enjoy it, with the fans and with my teammates, the sideline, Coach Payton, my family there, and then friends, family, and mentors afterward that have been such a huge part of my life and my career. It was really storybook, but it is nice to have this bye week to decompress. I think it was good for everybody. It gives us a chance to get healthy in some ways too, because we've got a tough run here coming up.
Smith may have caught the record breaker, but Breeze's main target to this point has been Michael Thomas, who leads the team with 46 receptions. Backfield, Mark Ingram has returned and showed no signs of rust Monday night. He scored 2 touchdowns in his season debut. But while he was out the first 4 games, Alvin Kamara carried the load, answering any question or concern about whether or not the reigning Offensive Rookie of the Year can be an every down player. And perhaps the biggest surprise is not that Taysom Hill has seen the field, but how often he's so. No longer just a special teams demon, Hill has contributed in many ways to the offense. He has a reception and a completion, and has also chipped in with 90 yards rushing and a touchdown, mostly out of the zone read package. Defensively, they are legit against the run. In fact, they lead the league in yards per carry. And after surrendering too many big plays early in the season, the secondary seems to have plugged a few of their holes. On the front end, the pass rush is coming around. Cam Jordan has 5 sacks, but the line as a whole played their best game on Monday night, especially from rookie draft pick Marcus Davenport.
I guess it's been more confidence, more getting comfortable. Earlier, sometimes I have to adjust how I play depending on them, and then even now, I'm able to change styles. I'm actually, working more moves and just trying to be all around better.
So at 4-1, the Saints feel good, but by no means can they get comfortable. Up next are back-to-back road games against Baltimore and Minnesota. And it's back home to face the LA Rams, followed by a trip to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. The road ahead won't be easy, but the Saints have helped themselves with a solid start to the season. I'm Sean Fazand for the Final Play.
Joined now by Saints Hall of Famer and our Saints analyst Deuce McAllister. The bye week is finally over for this football team, a much-needed chance to rest. What's the most important thing players need to do to get back in that football mindset?
You have to pay attention to the small details. I think that's very, very important, particularly when you have some time off. It's always good to be able to get away from the game, but once you get back into it, the conditioning, you want to make sure that you're good there, but paying attention to the small details.
We know the players had a little time off, but the coaches, you would imagine they're still around the building. What's been their focus during this bye week?
Well, he lets them go as well. He doesn't keep them in maybe as long as or quicker as the players got released, but for them, they want to go back and self-scout. I want to go and see, okay, what personnel were we using the most? What plays did we call the most? What are some of the things that we can get better at with using some of these plays? What are some of the things that we can add? So they're going to go and self-scout themselves and then continue to look at the upcoming opponents.
Is there any game planning going at all by the coaching staff?
Yes, they basically have a game plan, or at least how they want to attack Baltimore coming up. They have that in place. They'll continue to refine it and tweak it and things of that nature.
The only team the Saints have not beaten with Sean Payton and Drew Brees on board are the Baltimore Ravens. Why have they had such a problem with that team?
Well, it's the matchups, and it's a team that plays a 3-4 defense. They're traditionally always really stout, regardless of who the defensive coordinator is on defense. So Harbaugh has done a good job special teams-wise. They're normally strong there as well. So it's been a tough opponent. One of the things that they haven't done real well, particularly the Saints, is run the football. They have to make sure they can run the football against this front.
That may be the biggest test because the Ravens have the league's best defense. The Saints have the league's best offense, statistically speaking. I would imagine that Mark Ingram being back will help give the Saints a bit of an advantage there, but they still got to go out and do it.
You still have to go out and do it, and he will be an advantage because he gives them the opportunity to run inside a power game, but you can also use him to run in the zone scheme as well, what they do so well. You talk about the man scheme, they can man up and man block with that offensive line, so that's going to be the key. Whoever can control that line of scrimmage game, whether you're talking about defensive line or offensive line.
And the Ravens certainly know that. The last time we saw the Saints, they were celebrating Drew Brees breaking the yards passing record. Are they far enough removed from that? And Are they worried at all about the next touchdown ball he throws is number 500? Is there any chance of distraction from one to the other?
I don't think the 500, it means a lot, don't get me wrong, but I think the passing yardage was the one that you wanted to get out of the way. And what was interesting is this bye week really comes at a good time because the hangover shouldn't be you're thinking about that. For them, it's moving on to the next obstacle or goal that you want to accomplish.
The way we saw Sean Payton use Kamara and Ingram in that game against Washington, almost perfect. Ingram got most of the work. He was fresh legs, 4-game suspension's over. Is that the way we're going to see it go for the rest of the year, or might there be a little bit more balance in that?
I think the balance will come. I think really how the game played out, you know, as far as the really inside running, wanting to be able to drain the clock. Alvin had a workload that was heavy. For them, they can kind of beat you either way by throwing it in the air to Alvin or handing it to him, but I think the balance was fine.
On the other side of the ball, how encouraged are you with the way the defense has played so far? They've gotten better since that week 1 struggle against Tampa.
Well, continue to get better. I think that's the most important thing, making sure the communication is there. And you also see them settling a little bit in as far as their linebacker rotation. You should be able to get Manti Te'o back, so I'll be interested to see how they use him with how well the guys have played over the last 3 weeks, particularly linebackers.
Is there a great concern on that side of the ball still for you?
Well, there's always going to be concern. I mean, because anytime you give up the big plays, there's going to be a concern. And then obviously you're still working in, having lost Patrick Robertson, so you're still working in that nickel situation. So there's always a concern, but they're proving you wrong, or at least right, week after week.
You're not concerned about Marshawn Lattimore and the concussion he suffered against Washington?
No, he should be fine. I mean, and what's interesting is that's really out of the Saints' control. That's going to be handled by a doctor that's not affiliated with the team, but hopefully with the time off, the week off, the rest help.
All right, we'll leave it right there with Deuce McAllister, Saints Hall of Famer, our Saints analyst here on The Final Play. And we'll hear more from Deuce tomorrow when his normal Manic Monday kicks in. 8 a.m. Black and Gold Rewind, 5 p.m. his 2-minute drill, and at 10:35 the Black and Gold Review Show, all right here on Fox 8. We're going to go back to college football after the break, and with updates from Nichols, Southeastern, and other schools in Southeast Louisiana, we'll also recap a wild Week 7 from high school football. And in the meantime, we bring you the Final Play fan camera. To submit your passionate picture, send an email to PIX, P-I-X, at fox8live.com.
You're watching The Final Play.
Nichols State had a forgettable trip to Abilene Christian on Saturday. The Colonels fell behind early. They were never able to recover, losing 28-12, which means they'll be dropping in this week's FCS poll. ACU was spurned on by the nearly 11,000 fans on hand for homecoming, jumping out to a 21-6 lead before Chase Forcade led the Colonels to their only touchdown of the game. The Southeastern Lions got back to their winning ways, beating Houston Baptist in a shootout, 62-52. Southern blanked Prairie View A&M, 38-zip. And speaking of shootouts, UL Lafayette, they went crazy on New Mexico State, 66-38. Tulane had the weekend off. So here's next weekend's schedule, beginning with Southern and Texas Southern meeting at 2 o'clock in Baton Rouge. At 2:30, Tulane's back at home to face SMU, while ULL visits Appalachian State. Ranked teams meeting in Baton Rouge when 5th-ranked LSU hosts 22nd-ranked Mississippi State. Southeastern will be back in Hammond, taking on Abilene Christian. And Nichols, they will enjoy a weekend off. Now to prep football, and our play of the week takes us to Haynes versus St. James. Wildcat quarterback Shamar Smith lofting a beautiful fade to Jonathan Wilson over the shoulder. For the score, St. James, they rolled 43-7. Which takes us to our player of the week nominees. West Jefferson quarterback Wallace Lucas passed for 333 yards and 4 scores as they beat Bonneville 44-10. St. Paul's quarterback Jack Mashburn, he ran for 152 yards and 3 scores. He threw for 221 more and threw 2 touchdowns as they beat Ponchatoula 72-7. Also on the North Shore, Lakeshore quarterback Parker Orvin, 9 for 9 for 199 yards, passing 5 touchdowns as the Titans beat H.L. Bourgeois 49-0. Log on to fox8live.com/player to vote. Voting ends on Wednesday. Up next on the Final Play, it's time for some round ball. The NBA season is 72 hours from tipping off, and the Pelicans will take their first shot at one of the league's best teams in the Houston Rockets. We'll preview the Pelicans with Andrew Lopez from NOAA.com, the Times-Picayune, coming up next.
You're watching The Final Play.
is back, and the season gets underway Wednesday night for the Pelicans, who are looking to continue their progression as one of the league's better teams with one of the game's best players in Anthony Davis. A lot's changed about this team since last year's playoff run. Most notably, DeMarcus Cousins and Rajon Rondo are now playing their ball in California with the Warriors and Lakers respectively. The Pels didn't sit still in free agency either, bringing in some key pieces like West Bank native Elfrid Payton to run the point and Julius Randle to bang and score next to Davis. It's a roster that better fits how the Pelicans want to play, which is faster than anyone else. Question is, and Alvin Gentry will soon find this out, Andrew Lopez from NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, is this team better based on what they have, the pieces they have, and how they want to play than they were last year?
I think so. I think it fits more of Gentry's style. He was trying to make DeMarcus Cousins maybe fit into a role he wasn't comfortable with, having to run. And you saw when it worked at the end of the regular season, those last 25 games, and into the postseason, they were able to sweep Portland. This roster, I think, fits more of what you want to do. Just on the court, I think Randle is a better fit than what DeMarcus Cousins was. And I think Elfrid gives you what Rondo gave you on the court when it wasn't a national TV game. National TV Rondo, playoff Rondo was actually a thing. Elfrid will kind of give you a consistent. He's going to go out there and give you 11 to 12 points, 5-6 rebounds, 5-6 assists every night. Is
Anthony Davis a legit MVP candidate this year, or is he just another nice mention behind LeBron and Kevin Durant and all the usual suspects that are there?
I think so. And I think, I mean, you saw it in the fact that he finished third last year behind Harden. And, you know, Harden was able to, you know, he had a great year. Houston won 65 games, but if AD can get this team to 50 wins, which is only a 2-win improvement off of last season, I think he's a legitimate candidate.
And we don't believe 48 wins will be enough to keep Anthony Davis here long term. How much do you think he's watching these moves being made by Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry and watching the progress this team makes with all these moves?
He's talked about it a lot. He likes to pretend he doesn't want to talk about it.
Of course he does.
But what you see right now with him is, I'm focused on winning this year. And I know a lot of Pelicans fans get nervous because he just continues to say this year. He doesn't talk about next season. He doesn't talk about that. He knows that he's under contract for 2 more years. He knows that he really can't go anywhere unless he can go in and demand a trade, obviously, but he knows he's locked in to New Orleans for 2 years at least. But he also knows he wants to be the best player in the league. Consistently says he wants to be the most dominant player in the league. Being the most dominant player in the league means your team has to win.
And I think Dell Demps is known for a long time that it's all on Anthony Davis and getting guys around him to be successful. Andrew Lopez from NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Thank you, Andrew.
No problem.
Following the Rockets opener, the Pels' next 4 games will all be at home, including the home opener Friday against Sacramento. They'll also welcome in the Clippers, Nets, and the Utah Jazz. And that's our show for tonight. For all of us here at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. NFL Game Day Prime is coming up next, and we hope you'll join us again next Sunday night for the Final Play.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been the Final Play.